Hello, everybody. I'd like to join others who congratulated Legal Aid South Africa, and particularly the Department of Justice, and all the organizers for organizing this noble conference. I'm not an expert in this field. I'm just the Deputy Minister. So I cannot preach to the already converted, but I'll try and share the experience of the state of the access to justice through legal representation, particularly to children in Tanzania. With regards to the national measures on what we have done, I'll touch a bit on the basic document, which is our Constitution of Tanzania, dating 1967. Through Article 13, Sub-Article 6, it provides for the freedom and liberty, but particularly also to right to legal representation, which has been interpreted in some of the cases, and I'll be sharing the document later on, so I cannot make the full citation of the particular cases. It was once decided that right to legal representation has been guaranteed and thus ought to be protected in Tanzania, and that the provision of Section 310 of the Criminal Procedure Act of 1985 and the Section 3 of the Legal Aid Criminal Proceedings Act of 1969 ought to be interpreted together and in the light of the right to a fair hearing and right to a personal liberty as provided for by Articles 13 sub 6 and Article 15 sub Article 2 of the Tanzanian Constitution, to mean that the right to legal representation has been guaranteed both to those who can afford to hire an advocate and those who cannot afford to hire an advocate. And in the case, their services has to be paid for by the state. It's worth to note here that these constitutional provisions, Article 13 and Article 15, are applicable to every person in Tanzania, including children who come in conflict with the law in Tanzania. We have the Law of the Child dating 2009. This law was particularly enacted for purposes of reforming and consolidating the laws relating to children in Tanzania. It stipulates the right of the child with a view to give effect to international and regional conventions, particularly on the right of the child, including making provisions with respect to a child in conflict with the law and other related matters. In recognition of the fact that access to justice, particularly legal representation, is indispensable for the promotion and protection of children's rights in Tanzania, the Act has included provisions which provide for legal representation for children in conflict with the law or those who come in conflict with the law to enable them to have timely access to justice. It provides for a next of kin, a guardian or a parent, to be available at the juvenile court while the case is being heard. But also through the Criminal Procedure Act, Section 310, it provides for the statutory right to legal representation for any accused person, including children, in the following terms. Any person accused before any criminal court other than the primary court may of right be defended by an advocate of the High Court, subject to the provision of any written law relating to the provision of professional services by advocate. We only have one juvenile court in the whole country, and most of the cases are heard in the primary courts, and the advocates are not allowed to go into the primary court. So you can imagine, on the one hand, you promote access to justice, but on the other hand, you don't have enough juvenile courts, but later on you hear the cases in the primary courts and the child cannot be defended by proper advocates. But also, according to our Section 3 of the Legal Aid Criminal Proceedings, the children are only afforded the state brief or the legal aid or legal representation only on cases involving murder, manslaughter, and treason. So you can see the double standards. On the other hand, you want to make sure that everybody has the right to legal representation. But on the other hand, it's only for 3 types of offenses, so it's not very easy and it's very challenging on our part. With regards to representation by a paralegal or non-lawyer, the right to legal representation does not necessarily mean that the person in court will be represented by an advocate for that matter. And what is important for us is to have a trusted person, a person in whom one can rely on for the purposes of representing his interests in pursuit of the same. Children in Tanzania can be represented by paralegals in courts of law. However, the field of paralegal recognition is not recognized by law, and their role is not well defined. With regards to the legal aid schemes, we are collaborating with several CSOs, and particulars in Dar es Salaam and other regions. We are also collaborating with the Bar Association and other NGOs to make sure that the legal aid provision, particularly the legal representation, becomes a reality. Like the government, the CSOs as well cannot too afford to cater for all the poor accused persons, including children, and this is due to the limited financial resources at their disposal. They have a limited number of lawyers available to them. Most of them are scattered in urban areas, and each group organization has set up its own eligibility criterion for providing assistance, and lastly, they are not coordinated by one law. We subscribe to several regional and international conventions, particularly the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the CRC. I'd like to touch a bit on we are currently on our constitutional review process, and we have several provisions which provides for a right to legal representation. So we hope if the draft constitution be passed and be enacted into a new constitution, at least now the access to justice, particularly the legal representation to other groups, particularly children, will be guaranteed. With the support of UNICEF, we've managed to develop a national child justice strategy, but as you can imagine, it's still a strategy. So we need to have a proper law now codified to make sure now the provision of the legal aid in Tanzania is regulated, coordinated, monitored, but to also make sure that we have a provision of legal aid to all type of cases, be it civil, be it criminal. And when this new law for legal aid will be passed, all the children will be guaranteed to have access to justice and legal representation in particular. We also have the National Action Plan on Human Rights dating 2013-2017. This is a comprehensive blueprint for the promotion and protection of human rights in Tanzania, including the rights of children. It has a specific chapter for children and children in conflict with the law, but among the challenges that the plan seeks to address is an inadequate legal representation for juveniles at the police stations, in the preparation of their cases, and before a court of law. To this end, the National Action Plan also seeks to fully implement the above mentioned child justice strategy dating 2012-2013. We also have in place a law school of Tanzania, which has been established, and we want to make sure that we engage with all the law schools in Tanzania to make sure now they also participate in the provision of access to justice, the legal aid, and also the legal representation. We believe to emulate from all of you that with the experiences shared, but also we'll try and make sure that we implement all the principles that have been shared upon by the UNODC and all the experiences that we've gained so far during this conference. Thank you for listening.